What happens when you go to the Nether on a flat world in Bedrock? Sadly, this is a question with a very disappointing answer because it's literally just a regular Nether. This is despite the fact that the console edition Super Flat, which this could have been based on, actually does have a flat Nether world, and it's very disappointing by itself, but don't worry, because the end makes up for it, because when you go to the end in a flat world, it looks... oh, this is also normal. So the flat world only covers the main dimension, but even then it doesn't cover it well enough. There are all sorts of issues with the flat world type, and so today I thought it would be useful for developers to hear all of the issues that people who play Super Flat have with this particular world type, because I do feel as though it is just one of Minecraft's two world types, but it doesn't feel like it has as much thought as the infinite world type, or really has any thought whatsoever in many ways, and let me explain to you exactly why that is. Obviously, it could be argued that it's a moot point anyway, because you can never go to the Nether or the End in a super flat survival world. However, there are not just survival players who use this world type, and also all sorts of issues stack up, and I think it'd be useful for Minecraft developers to collect all of these issues with this world type in one place, and that is what I've done today. So let's explain the first and biggest one, which is of course, the Nether and the End could be done so much better, and we have proof of this from Minecraft Console Edition. All you have to do is take the exact same flat world type, or the same super flat customizing tool they've used, which by the way does exist in the game code, and then make it so it's a few layers of netherrack and the biome is the Nether instead of a plains biome. Boom, now you've made something which is really wonderful. However, if you want to really impress survival flat world players, you'll need to add some way to actually get to that Nether, and I think there's so many different solutions that would make perfect sense, one of which is just add a trade with one villager for a lava bucket. Obviously, you can't do that to the regular villagers for all sorts of reasons, but why not have the wandering trader offer lava? It makes perfect lore sense because he's already running around the world filling up buckets with various things. For instance, he will sell you fish, he'll sell you tropical fish even, with all sorts of different types, so he runs around with these lava buckets. Why couldn't he scoop up some lava while he was there and give super fat players, super flat players, although you know what, you're feeling fat, you don't want to go around the Minecraft world yourself and look for lava, so the Wandering Trader does it for you, which could help regular players out a little bit, but would go so far in the super flat world type. And I know what you're saying, well, you know, that might unbalance the game in some way, because now there'd be another way to get to the Nether, even for regular survival players in the infinite world type, and I do see the idea of like not putting any effort into this weird thing that 0.1% of players play that is going to mess with the regular game balance. And so if that's the case and we're going to ignore the Wandering Trader and not update his trades in the slightest, which I think, by the way, there's all sorts of items that could be added in there and really improve things, but then in which case, let's take a look at lightning striking a pig. This is a really useful feature, it's the only way to get gold in this world, and it's really nice for getting the golden apple and finally starting the villager progression. However, I think that because this feature was added before piglins were added to the game, you know, originally it was zombie pig men, given that now we have piglins, which later turn into zombified piglins when they enter the overworld, or when something happens to them in the Nether, I'm not really sure what, it would make sense that if lightning strikes a pig, it should turn into a piglin rather than a zombified one. I mean, if you take a look at the villager, when he gets struck by lightning, he doesn't turn into a zombie, he turns into a witch. Something changes in their biology, which makes them change gender? I guess you could argue the villagers are genderless, but the witch is definitively gendered, right? So it turns their non-gendered parts into specifically gendered parts, and so if we're gonna have that sort of transition happen, why not have one between animal and realistic, I don't know what we call it, like humanoid style of hybrid that can do some trading? Obviously what would happen is 30 seconds later, they would turn into zombified piglins, and basically nothing in the game would be affected, but it would first of all make more sense that the pig isn't immediately becoming a zombie just because it's struck by lightning, and second of all, it would mean in those 30 seconds, you'd be able to trade with the piglin, potentially, and get a little bit of trading done, allowing you to get obsidian, as well as crying obsidian, as well as gravel, as well as quartz, and all these other sorts of nether blocks, which would be really, really interesting, and I think would be a big boost to the game. That's right, when lightning strikes a pig, just make it turn into a piglin, and then give it a few seconds of tradable time, so you can take some of those gold ingots and really hope for even a netherite hoe if you really want, and I think that alone could make people really happy. I think that a way you can make people even happier is adding some form of difference in biomes that happen as time goes on. I think you can make these really large so the average player doesn't even notice it, but a simple idea, either behind a toggle or just as a default, is to allow people to have different grass colors under this world. This is something which wouldn't just benefit the average player, you, me, someone else, it would actually benefit everyone, because if you're a creative world player, you might want to build with the jungle grass, or the desert grass, or the icy grass, which again will have snow eventually fall on top of it, and being able to pick your biome by by picking a direction would be really, really fun. I think adding these different biome types would not only allow for that to be possible, but it would also allow you to effectively build in very different flat style worlds. Right now, if you want to have any biome that is not a plains biome, you have to not use the flat world type, even if that's what you really want. And I think that's a little bit annoying for both creative players, but also for survival players. It would allow us to have access to items like bamboo, or mobs like the panda, the wolf, etc., etc. And it would be a really great improvement. Again, I don't think they're going to do it specifically for survival players, but at least having an option for creative players. I mean, ideally, we go a step further and we say, actually, a better fix than this is what if you can customize your world entirely? You can pick not only the biome type, but you can pick the blocks. But again, I'm trying to pick realistic, doable changes that don't require massively changing the game. But in the meantime, look at how much this could add to the game. I mean, over here, we have our regular old flat biome that way, and over here we have, it's the cold type, which will spawn all sorts of different mobs, and of course we'll have snow instead of rain, so we'll create very different experiences if that's what you're going for. You could have these happen at regular biome points, or you could have them happen at very fixed points. Again, there's all sorts of ideas you could have, but I feel as though this does add something to the flat world type that anyone could appreciate, and again, if you really, really hate it, just make it a third world type. I mean, it's not like we're drowning in world types after they remove the old one. We have literally two. There's space for more until super flat arrives, and maybe maybe we have the super flat instead. Because here's the deal: the other change that I'd suggest without super flat, which is clearly the ideal goal, is this weird one right here. Also, look at when you remove a diamond hoe, you temporarily have your fist and the hoe out at the same time. That's something I've just spotted now. You know, it's not related to the video, but it's a very fun fact, isn't it? But yeah, something that I want to mention is that clearly the real long-term solution is having more world-type options. Having two is not enough for a game with 100 million copies in the world, and which is meant to be all about the sandbox of the world. If there is a sandbox in the world, and it's all about customizing and shaping the world, surely we should have more base world types. So many people have loved this idea of starting from scratch that the flat world type is presented, but why is it that if we want anything else, we have to buy these marketplace worlds, from a from a source where Microsoft gets a cut? Surely, we can argue, we can have more great options in the base game for everyone, and then those maps can add on top of that, rather than just starving Minecraft Bedrock of world type options. Because if we play the Java edition, where there is no such marketplace, you'll notice how instead of just having, by the way, do you like the way we did this? It looks very strange when you look at the shadow. But yeah, if we move over to the edition which has done flat worlds much better. So the world type is not just infinite on Minecraft Java, but as you can see, there's super flat, which is fully customizable. So not already, just of these two world types, they've already got more options. But then there's large biomes as an option. There's amplified, which again is a console edition feature that we've been waiting for on Bedrock. And then there's also single biome, if you want to just have a single biome across the whole world. Again, kind of like I'm suggesting, we could have for super flats. And then as well as single biome, we've obviously got the fact that each of these world types, especially super flat though, has the generate structures option as a separate toggle to the world. This is honestly something that Minecraft Bedrock could take great note from, because the bonus chest is a feature and it's really nice, but the generate structures allows you to pick a regular Minecraft world, let's say everything, right, and remove all of those messy structures, giving you just pure terrain. It also allows you to, again, this is what it looks like when you have a regular world with structures turned off. It's a much purer Minecraft experience because there are no structures of any form, no villages, no anything like that. It's just you and the blocks around you, which I'll admit most people are never going to want for survival, but for creative building, where you're just going to knock down some terrain or build into it, maybe you don't want all of those things. And also, there are the occasional survival players who say, actually, I would just like to, not have all of these resources thrown at you, which in some sense they kind of are, and all of these fun things that clog up the world. And so having more options is great because it allows both types of players to enjoy what they want. More customization means more people get exactly what they're looking for, and that also works the other way around. Instead of regular worlds with no structures, like this one you're seeing right here, we can also see the exact inverse, because you can also have super flat world types, which you can customize, but we're not going to for now, but you can have that with structures generate turned on. Funnily enough, this is something we know exists in the game files for Minecraft Bedrock, because, again, they have to be able to cope with Minecraft Xbox One worlds, and so if you take a world over, you can can have this happen, but only if you're importing a world from Minecraft Xbox One. Rather than making this a feature exclusive to people who play an edition of the game that you won't sell them, because again, that version is discontinued, and we can talk about the discontinuation another time. Why don't we just allow everyone to have access to world types like this, where if you like the idea of building on a super flat world in survival or even in creative, but you want to have some blocks to work with first or something to build on top of structure-wise, you can do that. I love that they decouple structure generation from the world type here on the Java edition, and I feel as though adding this to Bedrock could really go some places. And here's the greatest thing. Unlike almost every other feature that I've suggested today that could help out and would be easy, but maybe you could argue, well, Bedrock Edition isn't in the business of making brand new features. It's in the business of porting over features from Java, which I hope is not the attitude that Mojang has, but maybe it is. If that's the case, here are the features you need to port from Java. This is a feature which has brought many people lots of joy. If we look at channels like Mog Swamp, who is dedicated to the Java Superflat, because of this addition of structures and because of, I think he's been playing for many years, you can see, look at this. This almost looks like a regular world. The only way you can really, because of the terrain that he's been adding, the only way you can tell that this is super flat is because he mentions it directly to you. And maybe you could argue that it's silly once you get to this stage. I don't think so, though. I think that this is amazing to see. It's nuts, right? It is truly crazy. And yeah, this is just an example of what is possible when you give players just a little bit more creativity. I think having more world options is a key part of the creative process, and I don't see how this isn't priority number right after making sure that updates release for both platforms at the same time and making sure the game is relatively bug-free. I don't see how this isn't one of the immediate priorities to add features from Java to Bedrock. Right now, we can say that they're trying to achieve parity between versions, but while the biggest world generation features aren't in parity, and that's before we talk about the fact that even though they brought seed parity to Minecraft, but not the structures, until such a thing can happen, until you can generate the same world type on either version, there is going to be this massive disparity. There's going to be this reason for people to generate worlds in Java and then transfer them over to Bedrock, which then means that 99% of Bedrock players, which is, an overwhelming majority of Minecraft players out there, can't experience the joy of turning a world like this into a world like that one from before. I really don't know how that even happens, right? But yeah, it's a fun reminder that we are limited in our creativity by some options that I think should be seriously looked at. And this is the fun reminder to anyone who watches it at Mojang or otherwise, that this is something that I think could result in a lot of fun for players and also could help really explain to people that, yeah, we're not a cynical company that are, obviously allowing you to make your own world types as long as you pay some people some money, which, by the way, we take a cut off. Instead, it's no, yeah, we think that parity is more important than the, no doubt, revenue that rolls into, the marketplace funds via that. And we think that the marketplace can stand not just on getting basic features, because, by the way, if you want flat world type of villages, you can pay someone. If you want customized worlds in all these different ways, they do exist. No. We think that that's just a coincidence that's happening in the meantime. We're adding these features as a, as soon as we humanly can, because we agree parity is important. Having something like this on both versions is important. I hope that's the message we see from Mojang. I really do. And I want to believe that this is going to be something we'll be able to have. I think that making just small changes to the game, whether it's piglins, wandering traders, the biome types, the biome customization, the structures on or off, could massively change the super flat world type. And yeah, in the meantime, I'm going to enjoy my structures super flat. If you are a Java player and you've played some of the type of structures, it is fun to be able to trade and get diamond tools immediately, but try it the no structure way, you might enjoy it. And maybe vice versa. If you tried the structureless way, maybe you'd like it with structures on, because it is a lot easier, and again, you can start the massive progress sooner should you really want to. But for now, I hope you'll enjoy the video. I'm going to commit suicide by Iron Golem, because I'll see you all in the next one. Goodbye.